This is the closer. This is the final ending to the Colorado first rifle elk hunt that we had, and this is a 2-parter. So it's actually a 3-parter. So if you want to hear the full gamut, go back 2 episodes, listen to the pre-roll, where we kind of lay out the hunt, everything about that, all the details. Last episode, we talked about the first 3 days of a 5-day hunt and some crazy encounters with some things that we didn't expect.
Yeah, in the mountains. Yeah.
So if you didn't hear that one, go back 1 episode. Really quick, we're going to get into the story, but use promo code podcast on the website, paintsedarrow.com. Get you 10% off anything on the website. We appreciate you guys listening to this, and that's something we like to say thank you back by offering that up. So promo code podcast, paintsedarrow.com.
Will there eventually be a promo code for Heli Dev, or is that like not going to happen?
Yeah. Maybe in the future. There's a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so last episode we ended on a cliffhanger.
We did. Day 3.
Pun intended.
Licking our wounds, but trying to get the vibes right, headed into day 4.
So day 4, okay?
Day 4. Nate wakes up on day 4 the same way he wakes up on days 1, 2, and 3. But on day 4, he goes, "We're going to kill an elk today." Because he said, so on days 1 and 2, he was positive. On day 3, he was like, "We're going to see an elk today." And day 4, we wake up at 5 a.m. Nate jumps right out the sack, starts getting the coffee warm, and says, "Boys, we're going to kill an elk today." And we had no real reason to believe that was true, obviously. But the point is, Nate was keeping the vibes high, and we're headed into day 4. And Nate's like, "Let's go kill an elk."
Well, like we did. We'd
seen a couple
serious struggles with day 1 and 2. Day 3
was a better day.
It literally was like the goal, leaving camp. Because camp, we never really explained camp in the last episode, but like we didn't spend a whole bunch of time in camp.
No. We saw each other in the morning, then we saw each other right before we went to bed.
We got something to eat. We got some grub. We put our heads down. And camp life is kind of cool. Like, there's a wood stove. You get, kind of make a fire, get cozy.
There was a wood stove inside the tent. Like, it doesn't get any better than that.
Just sharing stories, the whole thing.
It was great. Like, every time we came back to camp, it's like, "Oh, what'd you see?" It was like one of like quick updates, having food, everybody's happy to eat. And it was just like
Al's bedtime stories.
It was great.
I think I told the same 2 stories on 4 different nights, and I put you 2 to sleep every night before I finished. I still don't think Devin knows the ending of the story.
No, Al, tell the one about Ecuador.
I don't want to put you guys to sleep. These guys want to hear the story.
Al's a world traveler. He's been all over the dang country, Nepal, Ecuador,
world,
Phoenix,
all over the world.
Phoenix.
That might be the one place I haven't been.
Oh, really?
Phoenix.
Anyway, so waking up
day 4.
On day 4, like I remember just like this is the day because Chad and I, shout out to Chad. Chad's a really good friend of mine. Everybody here knows Chad. He's in the wedding I had with my beautiful wife, and he and I, when I killed my first bull elk, we killed on day 4.
Yeah.
And Chad all week was just like putting it into existence.
Day 4.
He's like, "This is day 4." Even from before we even started hiking, he's like, "I think day 4 is going to be the day." And I'm like, "Right on, dog." And sure enough, on day 4, we killed.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking like the first 2 days were like ruthless.
Yeah.
Day 3, like, let's see a bull. We saw a bull. Day 4, I'm like, dude, this is a killing day.
Yeah.
This is a day that we kill.
Yeah.
Don't know who, don't know how, don't know when, don't know why, don't know anything, but I think this might be the day that we just gradually get to that point.
And you're with me this day because the previous day, day 3, I was with Al and you were with Hefe. So day 4, you're with me and Hefe and Al are together. Is that correct?
Correct.
So morning day 4.
This story gets so good. If you're listening, it's about to get good.
Morning day 4, you and I go for another huge walkabout, kind of where we went for the evening of day 3, thinking maybe that bull's still in the area. And we had said, look, this morning we're going to walk down towards that area again. There's a different park that we want to check out one more time. If that doesn't turn anything up tonight, the night of day 4, we're going into the dark timber. We got a day and a half left at that point. Like we're gonna go right after them. We're getting aggressive this evening if nothing turns up this morning.
Yep. Both the aggressive part in addition to like all of the gunshots we had heard earlier in the week were all from downhill. So we were really exhausted searching downhill the first 3 days.
That's true.
So it was kind of like we got to get more aggressive in addition to maybe we go the other way, which is the uphill a little more.
But I will say down the drainage towards those other camps, there was a lot more green, dark timber, which up where we were, there wasn't as much. There was one big patch farther up the drainage from us that we hadn't explored, but that we were saving it. And so Nate and I went on this walkabout morning of day 4, big long walkabout, didn't turn anything up. And it seemed like day 4, it got hotter quicker. Like by 10 a.m., it was hot.
It was the hottest day.
And we decided, like, look, okay, today we're not sitting dawn to dusk. Like I just said, if we don't turn anything up this morning,
we don't put something to bed, we're not going to sit this exact same spot 3 days in a row.
Correct. So we did the big walkabout in the morning. We went back to camp and we said, okay, tonight's the night. We're getting aggressive, but we're going to go back midday. We're going to get a proper lunch.
But I just want to say one thing. So that morning, that was my second day with you. And that was just like one of those like spiritual.
It was a good morning.
It's just a gorgeous morning.
Beautiful morning.
The air, we had coffee, we glassed some beautiful country, we had some good conversation. Like
great conversation.
You know how it is. You just have conversations out there on the hill that you don't have anywhere else.
Deep stuff.
And it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful morning.
Yeah.
Just wanted to add that.
Al and Hefe, what'd you guys do morning of day 4?
We did a similar thing to what had been done previous. Like we went down to, I don't know what we're calling the spot, the meat hanging spot, the river spot.
Yeah, you went down to the creek.
We went down to the creek to start the morning for the first like 45 minutes. And we did the same thing that you and Dad had done, Nate, seeing the 6x6. We started working our way down towards that trail. And there was a really distinct like landmark spot. Like we're calling it the Rock.
Yeah,
and you were correct that it was getting way hotter, way quicker that day because we got down to the Rock at like, 8:30, 8:45 maybe.
Yeah.
And we're just baking like a toasted cheeser on that thing, man. Like we were just 2 slabs of meat on this freaking hot rock, dude. Like we were a steak down at Black Rock Grill. Like it was getting bad.
It just got hot so much quicker on day 4.
It was a hot day. We
That's
were
a great spot though because you have a perfect view of the opposite side of the canyon.
Oh yeah,
anything move, you see it.
Yeah, and we were hoping that we would get another bull taking that same path coming up the hill where you had seen the other one. And I remember you guys had both said like, hey, if we were at that rock, we would have killed that bull the first day. So we got to the rock and we're like, cool, let's see if it happens. It just didn't happen that morning.
So it was real hot. I think 10 o'clock rolls around. That's our first check-in. Nate and I turn on the walkie-talkie and we're like, boys, it's getting hotter, quicker today. We're not going to sit it out in this spot all day. We're going to head back to camp. Maybe we'll hike towards you, pick you guys up, and we'll work back to camp. I think we ended up getting back to camp closer to noon or something. But basically, we were like, let's go back, get some lunch, and just take care of ourselves midday here. Rehydrate.
Let's enjoy camp a little bit.
Yeah.
We hadn't got to spend much time there, and we were all kind of like burnt a little bit, burnt out.
Day 4 blues, yeah.
So
we got back to camp, ate a good lunch, all the 4 of us.
Hold on, you skipped over an important thing. On the way back, we all kind of took a little bath in the river.
We did. That was
reinvigorating.
reinvigorating. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
And the water was so crisp.
It was so
and cold, and like it hits. We were just washing our hair with it, and it just felt so good.
Yeah. So that set the tone for the afternoon. We
well, the first thing that Dad did, he went in there and laid on his cot,
just
and all of a sudden everybody's out there kind of just sitting and
like, where'd Hefe go? Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
up,
all of a sudden, Devin followed him in there.
Yeah.
And I look, all of a sudden Alex followed him in there, and then I go in there. All of a sudden, everybody just took an hour and a half nap.
We took an hour and a half nap, middle of the day, woke up.
Nice lunch.
And I don't want to just roll past that because it's like one of those things when you're in a tough hunt, like sometimes you do need to like reset.
Well, you're just beating your body down. You're not eating enough. You're not drinking enough fluids. You're hiking your pants off.
Yeah.
Like you're beating your body into the ground.
Oblivion.
Yeah.
And if your body's not right, then your mind can't be right.
Right.
So
It's so true.
You need your mind to keep
Yeah.
alert and scan, and like, because these things are hard to find.
And I think everybody woke up out of that nap with like just a little bit of reinvigoration.
Yep.
Everybody was clear through the between the eyes. Like it really did for me personally. It was just like I was ready. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go do this. We got a day and a half
It was
to try and
the
turn something up.
perfect time for a recharge.
I will also say, this becomes relevant, but like the whole week we were trying to say like, man, we got to kill, and we got to kill early if possible, or at least kill before the last day of the season, because the way that this worked, the outfit that we went with had a lot of camps that all had to come out. And basically, if we hadn't killed by the last day of the season, they weren't going to be able to get us out until 2 days after the season. So like season ended on Wednesday. The quickest they could come get us if we hadn't killed would have been Friday, because their priority is getting meat off the mountain. And they just had just the sheer volume of people that they had out there.
Right. We just drew the short stick.
We drew the short stick.
We
and
were one
so-
of the farther in camps, not the farthest they said, but one of the farther, more difficult camps to get to. So we were on the back end.
all that to say, like if we had endured, basically full 5-day hunt, and then you got 2 more days to sit there when you want to be home if you don't kill.
Yeah, that'd
basically
been,
until they can come get you.
we definitely day 4 were getting a
Plus, I
little
remember-
homesick too.
I used the opportunity to go to use our latrine,
Yeah.
and it was totally full, heaping over. So I dug a new
Dug
hole.
a new latrine, yeah.
I used that opportunity to dig the hole out.
I do want to give Dad some shine for that because
Some
like
shine.
It's a shitty job, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's dirty jobs. You should tell Mike Rowe you're coming for him.
But that was a benefit from this experience, is they had actually a toilet seat on a chair.
Yeah, they had a folding chair that they took a sawzall, cut a hole in, and screwed a
some beautiful redneck
toilet
engineering.
seat to it.
It
It was
worked
sweet.
great.
I loved it.
And but I do have to give Dad
Sucker
some
for
shine
nice.
because Nate did an
Gotta give
okay
some
job.
shine.
Like he dug an okay hole, and then when that one was exhausted, Dad went in there and
my
dug
God,
a man's
He
hole.
dug a latrine.
He
You're
dug a
right.
latrine.
Oh my God!
'Cause I know you guys
It was
were
almost a
full of
grave.
Poop was why.
Did you get like a tape measure out? Because it was like perfectly square.
It was.
Dude,
wow.
Like he did
Yeah.
not
Got
mess
out the
around
laser
with that.
level and really.
I remember
really
you
did
were a
some of your
little
best
worried
work.
about the one that I dug. You were like, "What if one of those four posts of the chair fall down in there and you fall?"
Dad was like, "We're
So
gonna
you,
do this."
You
the
got
right
out
way.
a square and a plumb bob, and you made it nice and square.
I like that. So we wake up out of the nap. Everybody gets a little lunch. We all rehydrate, and I think the vibes are as high as they can be for day 4.
And
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you, before that nap, Dev looked like shit.
Wow.
He looked like a shriveled up raisin on the side of it.
I did the day before day 3. Not to mention, like obviously with the whole helicopter thing, but like I did not do a good job of hydrating or eating on day 3. I did not eat even close to enough. I was at a huge calorie deficit and I was feeling horrible.
Well, and every time Nate would like bring it up, he'd be like, "Man, you look like you lost 5 pounds." And then it was 10. At
Be
one
like,
point, he
"Dude,
said,
you look like you've lost 50 pounds.
"You must weigh 130 pounds soaking wet."
Yeah, thanks.
And you're like,
dude.
"What the heck?"
Yeah.
But yeah, you looked a lot better after that. He's right.
Yeah, he did.
So
You
I
definitely
looked
looked better.
like shit. That's where you left off.
Well,
That is what you said.
You were going to take the floor and say we're all going hunting.
Yeah, vibes are high. We come out of the nap. Everybody's feeling good. We got a little food on us. Everybody's got a fresh canteen, some water.
Some creek water.
And for night 4, it's time to get aggressive. Nate and I are going up the drainage towards this big patch of timber that we hadn't pushed into all week. I think day 1, Hefe and Nate were close to this chunk of timber where they had seen these bears, but they didn't push in super tight to it. And tonight was the night we're going to get tight to the timber, and we're going to try to see an elk, get up out of his bed, and just sneak his nose out of that timber a little early and see if we can kill him. So
And it is, you kind of mentioned it, but that was like at the head of the drainage.
The
We
very
went there
head.
night 1. That was like where a big chunk of timber was.
this is like the only chunk of timber that's really like dark chunk of timber that's reachable for us.
You're right.
And Dad and I gave you guys a little head start, and then we came in probably 15 minutes later. We were on the same.
Yeah, you guys followed us up the drainage, but didn't go in as far.
Yeah, we didn't go in quite as high or as far. We were probably 300 to 400 yards away from you guys. It seemed closer, but I think it was a little bit farther.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So we were kind of looking back towards camp, and you guys were kind of looking out towards where we hadn't been, basically.
Yep. So Nate and I make our way up there. We get to this big shale field. Seems like a reoccurring theme. And we hiked our taters up this shale field to sit on this face and look way across to this other side of the drainage. But really, we're tight to this dark timber. So the theory is, okay, there's clearly a really well-traveled trail right there. There's some good browse. It's tight to this chunk of timber. Something's going to get up out of its bed, and hopefully it'll work over on this face, and we'll have a
Bang it
a
out
shot.
right there.
Yep. That or maybe something will come down to the water down below us because the creek's in the bottom of the V, like you've heard. So
And you guys explain to where you were.
he just did.
Yeah,
you
we were
Yeah.
both on the east side of our drainage,
Just a couple
looking
hundred
to
yards
the
down.
west side, and
Yeah, you did. I'm sorry.
So we had a similar look, but we were kind of looking straight ahead and back towards camp downhill, and you guys were looking up.
You guys are like within eyesight.
Yeah,
sure.
we leaned back at one point and we could barely see some orange. And I'm like, holy crap, is that them? So you guys were within naked eyesight when we were both settled into our final spot.
And for whatever reason, like I don't know why, we never checked in. It was always 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Every day we'd get on the radios real quick. Hey, how you doing? You see anything? Yep. Okay, bye. It was like one of those.
Yeah, for some reason, leaving camp that day, I'm like, are we checking in at 4? And I have no idea why I said that.
I have no idea because like we basically got into, to where we were sitting, 40
like
minutes before that.
20, yeah.
Yeah, we always assumed that like, well, 4 o'clock's kind of prime time. Like, what's it's either you're gonna hear a gunshot or you're not.
Yeah.
So here we are, 4 o'clock, Devin and I, and I'm looking across the canyon, and we're right next to where these bears were on day 1 for Jeff and I.
Yeah.
I look across the canyon, and I'm like, oh my God, that's those 4 bears.
Yeah, I pull up my glass and I'm like, sure as shit.
And we're getting to we pull up our binoculars. Obviously, we're watching. They're hammering these berries.
Yeah.
I don't even know. We still need to find out. We asked some of these guys. Nobody knew what these berries were, but they're like a specific berry on a specific type of bush, shrub.
They're red. You bust them open. It kind of smells like a mix of an apple and a tomato. And it's got a lot of seeds in it. And they were hammering them.
And you could see because it was exactly what they were eating because all the scat that we had seen everywhere
had those seeds in it.
was those seeds. So that's in right now, that time. They were hammering them. And we just watched them for a long time.
And my God, dude, we got to stare at this sow through the glass we probably watched her for 40 minutes to an hour.
I think over an hour.
And we're watching her, and literally every 2 minutes, one of us would say, like, dude, do you see how big this sow is?
Huge sow.
And then it'd be like, no, seriously, dude, do you see how big she is?
Yeah, so
She was a giant bear.
I shot a 300-pounder, a boar
Yeah.
in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And they usually, judge bears by weight and the skull length.
Yeah.
But that was a 300-pound, that was the only experience I'd ever had with a bear, really. And I remember everybody was like, that's a really big bear from Michigan, like a really big 300-pound bear. And this bear was every bit of that size, if not more.
Yeah, she was huge. And she was
her face was really
filled out,
blocky.
Yeah.
And she just looked like she had this look. We were looking at her so clear as day across the canyon, and
she was real cinnamon colored. Like she was very brown.
She was a cinnamon face.
One of her cubs was brownish, and the other 2 were jet black.
Yep.
At one point, I asked you guys that. I'm like, are these brown bears? Because that would be worse.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, they're just kind of cinnamon colored.
Yeah, there's no brown bears in Colorado.
That's a color. They call it a color phase color phase bear.
But 4 o'clock rolls around, and that's when we got on the radios, and it was nice because we were in constant communication about these bears because basically, kind of as we alluded to with the first day, it's not a good situation to be in if a mom and 3 cubs come near you and you for whatever reason, you startle them or they're feeding and they feel like you're intruding, and then all of a sudden you're in a skirmish, and it's not good for anybody. So we were kind of like,
especially us against a 300-pound black bear.
Yeah, and you don't want to. Yeah, we got a gun, but you don't want to have to shoot a bear.
No,
especially a sow with cubs. That's illegal, first off. But you just don't you don't even want to put yourself anywhere near that type of situation. So what we were doing on the radios, we were we kept them on longer than we normally would.
Yeah.
Because we were communicating hey, if these bears end up coming around wrapping around and getting tight to us, we'll probably just kind of come down towards you guys and just stay clear because we don't want to be walking around in the dark with potential hazards in our way. So what ended up happening, we did watch them for probably an hour and a half. And I was honestly, that was probably up until, what's about to come in the story next. That's probably my highlight.
Did you mention the part that you watched them come out of their den?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did we say that?
We literally found the cave that they came out of. Watched them come out of the cave.
Walked right out of the den.
Yeah, because the first day when you saw them, you saw them, but you didn't know where they came from. But this time we're like, oh, it's very clear. They're right up there. There's this huge hole in the rock.
Yep.
100%, Al. Great point. That we literally watched them come out of the den. They were 15 yards from this hole, and we were like, that is 100% where they just came from. Big, gigantic hole in the side of the cliff.
Yep.
Way up. I mean, way up at the top. And so you guys ended up watching for a while, right? You saw him?
Yeah, we saw him as well. We couldn't see him as clear from our angle, and there was some trees in the way. But once you pointed him out, we found him. We got to watch him as well. It was awesome, and it really, made it a lot more fun for us. Rather than just looking at rocks, you get to watch some bears.
Yeah.
And at one point though, you guys really did make the call over to us on the walkies, like, okay, they're coming down. Like, we're probably going to move out of here.
There was like a pretty definitive point where like they stopped browsing and they just started walking on a line.
Yeah.
And they headed for this dark timber, wrapping around the end of the drainage, right kind of towards us. And we're like, okay, well, once they get in that dark timber,
The next thing they'll do is
we can't
pop out.
see them. And so they can reasonably close the rest of the distance, and then they're going to pop out right here in front of us.
Dad,
I
what
felt
did
really
you,
good about it until knowing that you guys had a different angle and could see them, because we lost sight before you did.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you guys were like, all right, we lost sight, we're going to move, I was like, Dad, they could come out of this tree line right here any moment.
Yeah.
Dad, what did you think about? Because you and I had seen him the first day, and then we saw him up there, like you were glassing him. What were you thinking in your mind?
I know talking to Alex, we're both talking like, if they start coming towards us, we got to get out of here. And you guys are way up higher than us.
Yeah.
So we're kind of worried about how you were going to avoid them. But
Like, if it was just a bear, like the situation's completely different in my mind.
Yeah.
It's like if it comes up to you, you just kind of wave your arms and it'll run away. It'll smell you, it'll run away.
Right.
Our thermals are going down. So if it but the fact that it was a mom with 3 cubs,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It added a different element.
you don't want to have it all of a sudden pop out of the timber and it's 25 yards in front of you and the cub's
She thinks
leading
you're a
and
threat.
she's like, doesn't
Yeah,
matter what
exactly.
the situation is.
If they pop out of the timber and the Cubs leading, she sees you, it's all over. She's protecting the Cubs. Like,
Right.
it's just that simple.
There's going to be
Yeah.
an incident here. So like if it would have been just a bear, like it's really not that big a deal.
You're right, yeah.
It's just you wave your arms and they run
Right.
away. The fact that there was 3 cubs.
Which they had already demonstrated while we were watching them. They had no issue getting away from Mama.
Oh yeah, they were all
Like,
over.
they were all over the place, and
Yep.
they'd stay within kind of like earshot or eyesight of her, but that was definitely in my mind. Like, once they get in that timber, one of those Cubs could pop out right down below here,
and we wouldn't be able to see him until
and we
then.
wouldn't be able to see him until then. And then when she comes out of the timber and she sees that the Cubs that close to us,
Right.
like, it's just going to be a thing, and it
And
doesn't
the
need
way-
to be a thing.
The way that our thermals were going, like
Yeah.
it was in our favor.
Yeah,
They wouldn't have
100%.
smelled
They would
us.
have been right on top of us.
So basically, Dev and I get to a point where like, okay, we're just gonna move down to the trail. We've lost sight. The next thing, like the way that the terrain rolled, like they could have just appeared. Because that's
Yes.
how they did the first day with
Yep.
me and my dad. They just all of a sudden were like 75 yards and we're like, holy cow, there they are.
Yep.
So to kind of like get away from that, we went down to the bottom of the trail.
Because we had jumped off the trail and hiked just up this shale face, and that was a little bit of a careful hike. So we didn't want to have to do that in a hurry.
Exactly.
So we were like, let's just get down to the trail, and then we'll kind of wait it out and see if we can see the bears.
and they're
or-
close. I mean,
Yeah,
they're really close, really. I mean,
150 yards maybe.
like not that far. So we end up getting down to this trail.
Yeah.
Radio communications wide open between us. And we're kind of just standing there waiting. We're kind of just standing,
Literally
looking,
glassing for the bears.
just looking around,
looking
not
around.
really doing anything. We're just kind of
And
standing.
it's probably what time you think? 5:45, 5:30,
It's 5:40, yeah.
something like that.
It's 5:40. So dark at 7. We got about an hour, 20 minutes or whatever it is.
Yep.
Hour and a half.
But we're pretty much resigned to the fact that we're going to just be hunting our way out of here. Like, this
Yeah,
kind of
because
sucks.
the timber that we were hunting, the bears went into.
Yeah, and there's just going to be no elk in here.
Pass the ball to me quick.
Okay, Al.
So then, again, comms are still wide open, which is not normal for us. All of a sudden, Dev calls over and says, "We
Well,
see it."
the last thing I had said to you was the bears are getting closer to us.
We're
They just
moving.
went into the timber. We're coming towards you. We'll work our way down to you.
So yeah, Dad and I were waiting for that, and then out of nowhere, like we see something. We think it's an elk. Over and out. Click.
Yeah, I literally was like, Al, I think we see a bull. I'm shutting off the walkie-talkie. Bye.
And so Dad and I are all like, "Where the heck's this thing coming from?" And like we're expecting to hear a gunshot in like the next minute.
Right. Yeah, I didn't
And-
give you anything.
So pass the ball back to you guys. It was more than a minute.
Yeah, so we were standing on this trail, like Nate said, getting ready to like sort of not call it like head back to camp, but like hunt our way out of there.
Yep.
And Nate's kind of glassing for the bears, just looking around at the base of the timber, and I, for whatever reason, look way, way up high. And I'm like, oh my God, Nate, I think I might have just seen a body flash through that opening up there. And so we both pick up our glass and we're like looking, and we were both, and Nate's like, oh my God, it's an elk. And I'm like, no shit. And we're like looking, and basically we spotted an elk. He's about 100 yards linear distance from this bear den that we watched the bears originally come out of. They worked all the way down the hillside into that timber like we talked about, but he's way up high where they came from. He's 100 yards down the trail, way up high, basically, maybe not even 100. It might have been 75 yards.
It was tight to it.
He was right next to this bear den, and at the time we had no idea what he was, but we saw the elk, so immediately we dropped down like right on the trail. So we're on the trail, and there's just a big rock face going right up to the next to the right of us that we had just come down. So we're basically sitting on the trail, leaning up against rocks and shale.
It's not a trail. It's a bad way of saying it. It's like a game trail.
It's
And
like,
we're like in the middle of a shale field with boulders everywhere, and it kind of looked like elk might have moved through there. It wasn't like a trail.
It's not a trail. It's just like a deer trail or a game trail, an elk trail.
So we
sitting-
identify I'm like that's definitely an elk, and we sit down and I'm like, get ready right now. There might be a shot opportunity.
So
like
Nate,
it got quick. Serious.
He's like way up there though. Like I want to emphasize, he's at least 400 plus yards at the time we spot him.
430.
And I want to emphasize the fact that at any moment, Mama Black Bear could come right up to you.
Well, that's the other thing. So we sit down, and Nate and I are like trying not to get too excited about the elk because one, we don't know if it's a cow, if it's a bull, if it's a legal bull. We know nothing. We just saw an elk.
Yeah, we just see a butt of an
But
elk.
we're also like, we filmed the whole thing too, but we're continuously reminding ourselves like, make sure you keep an eye out for those bears because again, like
we're sitting.
Now we're maybe even more vulnerable because we're sitting on the trail that they could pop out on at any point right in front of us with the wind in our favor.
Correct.
So we're like trying to pay attention to this elk, but also trying not to get like surprised by 4 bears. So we're watching this spot and we're sitting there and we're glassing and we're checking for bears and we're glassing and we're checking for bears. And basically 35, 40 minutes go by of this elk milling around behind this one lone patch of pine trees at the very tippy top.
That I was convinced wasn't actually there because the last time I'd seen it, it was quartering towards the timber. And I was like, we're never going to see that again if it goes in there.
Yeah.
He was like,
quartering towards the timber. And I'm like, Nate, I'm telling you, I saw him take a step back left, and I have not seen him since. Like, he stepped back left behind the patch of trees, and I haven't seen him yet. And you're like, well, I didn't see him take that step. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I saw him take that one lone step back to the left.
And so
I think you were like, okay, well, if you saw him step back to the left, maybe he's still there. And that's kind of what like kept our hope alive.
Oh, I was.
We were like, the only thing is maybe he could have worked directly away behind the trees, but otherwise he has to be right there.
I was living in the 12x50s, just living
in them,
and I'm just staring at this area, and I'm trying to be your spotter. I'm like, get settled right now, get the bipod out, get comfortable.
Yeah,
I got you a range on that area. Like we're getting ready. Like you're not glassing really. You're like looking through the scope
I'm looking
of the
through
rifle.
the scope, and then I like pull up my binoculars and look for a little while, and then I'm like looking through the scope, and I'm like playing with the magnification, like if he was right there, what zoom do I want it on? But at this point, again, we haven't seen him in like maybe 15, 20 minutes.
I think it's worth noting as well, like this was not like your well fortified, like planned out spot for the night. This was, oh crap, we're gonna move because of these bears.
Down right
oh
where we were
crap,
standing.
sit down in a random spot. You're just trying to find your footing.
That video is very apparent of that. Like I'm sitting in a pricker bush and I'm like trying to move rocks to get my elbow like in a spot where I could actually shoot, and I've got the gun propped on this other rock. Like it was not ideal. It's not how you'd want to pull off this shot, but it ended up being a decent position to lay down in once I kind of got comfy.
Like your bipod legs, one was all the way out and one was halfway out.
Yeah, I had to like completely adjust the angle of the bipod to actually. It was
gnarly spot.
It was a gnarly spot. I ended up getting somewhat comfy though, thinking like, man, if he actually steps out, like I'm comfy enough that I think I can try a long shot.
So finally, I can't remember who did, but we identified like the elk.
He's still there.
We don't know what it is, but
he's
it's still right behind that tree, and we can see it kind of like feeding. And like I thought I saw a flash of a brow tine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very certain it is a bull. I don't know
if it's the
spike that we saw earlier in the week.
And that spike that you guys had saw later in the week ran right up that drainage to that spot.
100%.
So we thought maybe it's that spike, and that's going to really suck if we just waited him out for 40 minutes and it's not a legal bull, but we're going to wait him out.
So finally, there's this clearing to the left. I'm ranging it 395, 400, 390, 395, 400, like giving me different ranges every time, but it was like right at 400 yards. And I'm like, Dev, that bull is looking like it's kind of coming out this way. Get ready to take a shot. If he hits that opening, it's a legal bull. That's your opportunity right there.
I was like pretty much clearing my only opportunity really.
And he was currently at 430, but that clearing was 400 yards basically.
Yep, you ranged it. You're like, it's 390, 400, 405, like it's 400. Just put it at 400.
I'm in the 12Bs and I'm looking. We're looking. You're in the scope. You're in out. Your binoculars. You're in the scope. I'm looking. It's a heated moment because all of a sudden we're like, he's coming. Like he's coming to that
down.
clearing.
You're like, he's gonna come down.
And I'm like, get ready to take a shot.
We still don't know if it's a legal bull. You just
don't
can
have
see
any
his
idea.
legs, and you're like, he's
We
committed.
have no idea
he's
what it
coming
is.
down right now.
We have no idea
It's
what
like
it is.
you're a army sniper, and they're like,
No, it was
you're waiting for
it was
the
epic.
go to squeeze the trigger. You're
Well,
just
I want to say too. So the rifle that I set up and built for this hunt, it's a Bergara HMR Wilderness. It's a 7mm Rem mag, and the scope I put on it is a Leopold 3-15 by 44 VX5, and I did the CDS dial, but I did it for the specific load that I was shooting, so I got the custom dial. And so when we were shooting, I had shot at like, I'd zeroed at 200. I had shot out to like 300, which is pretty much as far as I could really reasonably shoot in Michigan. But having done that and having that dial, like I could just turn it to 500 if I wanted to.
Right.
But I hadn't obviously shot that far. So this was going to be 400, which would have still been the longest shot I'd ever taken. So once you had ranged that opening for me and we knew he was committing to come down, like we could see him taking steps towards that opening, I'm like dialing it to 400 right on.
We both knew it was a bull. We knew it was a bull. We just didn't know. Have no idea what it is.
Or if it's legal.
Hadn't actually seen this thing step out at all.
Yeah.
We saw its rump. We kind of saw like through these pine trees. It's got some antlers. We don't know what it is. And so there's this heated moment, and it's all on film. This is probably one of the most epic. This will be one of the most epic film documentaries that Painted Arrow as a company will put out once it is finally edited and posted. But the intensity of the moment, I can't even explain the intensity of the moment, was absolutely a peak. It was a peak. It was a peak of a lot of things, and it resembled. That's not the right word. It kind of like is who we are as a company in a way. Like it's our friendship in a way, and that's why the video is so special to me, because the communication between spotter and shooter is like huge.
For 45 minutes.
It was like you could cut the air with a knife. How intense these moments were.
Yeah.
And so I like, okay, he's coming. Like Dev, he's coming out. And you're like, let me know if it's a legal bull.
I'm like,
I need to know if it's a legal bull because I can't tell in the scope. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you as soon as I can see that mother.
That's literally exactly what you said.
I did. I'm like, because it was such a heated moment. And he comes out and I'm like, I think he's legal. I think he's legal.
He's
legal.
a legal bull. And right as you said it,
And I'm
I
like-
could see him in the scope, and I saw brow tines, and I saw enough points, and I'm like, oh my God, Nate, he's a legal bull. I'm going to try it. And like in the
You
video,
said, Nate,
And I'm like,
I'm gonna kill this.
I did actually. In the video, I click off the safety and I'm like, Nate, I'm
well,
gonna kill him.
I said, I need you to make sure this is absolutely 100% positive shot, because if you take this and you wound him, like no, I'm not kidding. It's
No,
not
you were,
funny.
You were
It's
dead
like,
serious. You're like, look,
it's
don't.
it's going to be dangerous getting there.
Yeah.
Like this has to be a for
We're
sure
in
deal.
freaking bear country. He's right next to a bear den.
That was the
fleeting
other
light.
huge thing. We
Like
haven't met.
bears in the area.
75 yards from this bear den where these bears last were seen. We're having to go through that to
Yeah.
get to this.
Yeah.
We're used to Michigan, like shooting angles out of a deer stand, shooting downwards, and like, oh, and he needs to enter here so it'll exit on
Yeah.
this side. You're doing the exact opposite at a much more extreme angle, and you're probably thinking to yourself, like, where do I got to hit this thing so that it actually hits
That's
all the way
true.
through? It's weird angles out there.
That's really true. I'm like, I'm laying down, basically shooting what felt like straight up. And I remember, I dialed to 400. And I remember, like in the video, I kept telling you, like, Nate, I'm really trying, like, I'm trying to control my breath, and I just can't. I can't control my breath. Like,
I was like,
I just
calm
can't
down,
get
just
my
calm
breath.
your body.
and
Make
I
sure
wasn't
it's a
like,
sure
I
thing.
wasn't freaking out, but my reticle was moving more than I wanted it to with my breathing, and I'm like, I'm trying to slow my breath. And something kind of just came over me. I got a big deep breath. He's getting ready to step out. Right as you and I both confirmed, like, he's a legal bull, I literally said to you, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it, and I said I'm gonna kill him. And I clicked off the safety, and I'm sitting there. And the very first time he had cleared that last tree, he stands broadside for a second. And I remember I took my final breath, and I'm just getting ready to squeeze off, and he takes a step and quarters right to me.
Hard.
And I let off, and I literally say to you in the video, I'm like, oh my God, dude, I almost just squeezed off right as he turned.
Yep. I'm in my binoculars, just intently watching this as your spotter, and I'm like,
And that,
just
like,
calm down, like take
that
the
rattled
next
me
shot,
a little
that
bit
opportunity.
because, like, I had calmed myself to that whole point, and then I realized, like, it all dawned on me how bad
Gotta
that
do it
could have
again.
just went.
Yeah.
So then he takes another step and turns back even more perfectly broadside, like picture perfect. And I'm like, okay. I literally said in the video, I'm like, Nate, are you ready? And you're like, yup. And I take a long final breath. and I squeeze off, and
The crack of the gun
like,
rocks
it
us.
rocks us both. And I remember like I'm like disoriented, and I'm like, holy shit, I just shot. And I find him again through the scope.
I'm watching. I'm like, rack
And
again,
and
hit him again.
The jury's still out. So like I find him again through the scope, and I'm convinced just based on what his body language looked like to me, like he's hunched and he hasn't taken a single step. So I'm like, okay, I hit him, and Nate's like, rack it again, hit him again. So I rack another one, and I put it on him, take another deep breath, boom, squeeze again. And the second shot, he frickin' buckles, doesn't take a step, face plants right on the log that he's standing on top of, and didn't go anywhere.
Dude, it was so
And at that
epic,
moment,
dude.
we lost our minds. Like
Dude, it was
all of the ups and the downs, the emotion, everything, all in that moment just
So of course,
poured out.
Dad and I.
And keep in mind, 50 minutes ago, I had just said, hey, we found a bull. I'm shutting off the walkie-talkie. See ya.
So our side of things, I'm sure Dad felt the same. We're like, well, they said that, and then nothing's happened. Like, so
Right.
it must have walked away. Why haven't they radioed us on the walkie-talkie? We hear the 2 shots,
Was it loud?
and it was super loud.
Super loud.
I mean, it echoed all over the mountain. We're like, okay, clearly they just shot twice, and we're both staring at that walkie-talkie, just waiting for an update. And what happens next, Dad?
Then all we hear is Nathan yell, "Bull down! Bull down!"
And like, you were like, God,
Dude,
so
it was.
we got
Oh
our
my God.
confirmation.
So we were elated. And at this point, too,
So what were you guys thinking though when you heard that?
The bull
Were
down.
you excited or like what?
Well,
Yeah,
what were you thinking, Dad?
Just hearing the crack of the rifle had to be exciting.
it was. Yeah, because we had waited so long for something to happen, and all of a sudden, bam! And it was like, and then I think
Did
we
it
high
startle
fived.
you
I think
guys?
we high fived.
Yeah, we high-fived.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
happy for you.
That's
So
awesome. That
it-
means so much.
Heli Dev
dude,
strikes again.
Heli
so
Dev.
you got to watch both shots through the
Yeah,
binoculars.
we
and
have
you said like you got to
opposing
watch
opinions of this.
like you got to watch the trail of the bullet.
I did. So we kind of disagree on this. You thought you hit him on the first.
I thought I hit him on the first,
so.
and he just didn't move.
So it's probably too early to talk about this because after we butchered, I don't want to get too far ahead because that's a huge piece
part
of the story.
Yeah.
But basically, when you first shot, he didn't move a muscle,
Yeah.
but he did look.
Hunched.
He looked like
Tense.
like somebody just punched him in the stomach.
Yes.
Like it kind of looked like that.
Yes.
But I literally on the second one, because this is the first time I've really like had the opportunity to spot somebody in this situation on
Yeah.
a live game. And it was light enough. Like on the second shot, I keyed in on the actual
You watched
Bullet.
the trail of the bullet.
the trail of the bullet. What do you call that?
I don't know, like the vapor trail or whatever. Like
vapor
you got
trail.
to you got to see.
I could see like I could see like that millisecond of like vapor trail. And you definitely hit him on the second one because he like
buckled.
I know you hit him on the second one.
Yeah.
On the first, I didn't see anywhere on the animal when we skinned him
Yeah.
where you'd hit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you didn't, but
unless
I
he's a
know
marksman and hit
for
the same spot
100%
twice.
fact
Then
you
I
hit him on the second.
Well, it felt to me in the moment like the second shot was rushed and I just threw it on him to shoot again. And the first one, like I was right on him. And so I felt like, and again, like the image I have him burned in my brain because I shot and then, like you said, it rocked both of us. And I very quickly tried to find him again through the scope and I saw him and I'm like, oh my God.
Like I
he's
don't know
hunched.
the right words, but like the G forces of that break
Yeah.
on the end. Like that's what when you say that
we
to
both
people
were
listening,
rocked.
like you can see in the video, we just both like we just like move. Like the gun, like just the G forces, like it moved us. Like it was intense.
All that to say, he drops in his tracks. The celebration starts. We're freaking out. We finally turn on the radio, get a hold of you guys after Nate had already yelled.
Yeah, we
down
already.
the whole
Yeah, the
canyon.
entire
everybody
mountain knew, but
everybody knew.
um,
But at that point, like I go through all of the stages, like extreme excitement. I started crying, thinking of my boy because I literally told my son Rhett, like, I'm gonna bring you home an elk rack. Daddy's coming home with an elk. And like that moment hit me there.
You started dry heaving.
I literally like the adrenaline dump hit me and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up. Like what the heck?
We got that on film too.
yeah.
But I think it was the culmination of the ups and downs and just the emotions over those last 3 days, like just the ups and downs.
Yeah, I mean,
And then it just all hit at once.
I mean, it doesn't. It's the story is not over yet. So if you're listening, don't turn off yet because it gets like so much more interesting.
Yeah.
But like just to that point, like we had already experienced two complete. Like if you're looking at a depth chart of
Yeah.
Like-
Peaks and valleys.
the peaks and valleys. I mean, total top of the graph, a total bottom of the graph.
Saw a giant 6x6, scared him out with a freaking helicopter.
Like everything.
Well, it came to fruition the alliteration of, okay, yeah, maybe you screwed up your first golf shot real bad, but you still have a chance to win it all and bury that putt. I think I said something like that to you on the walkie-talkie. Hell of a 400-yard putt there, bud.
Yeah, the fact that it was 400 yards, too.
When we finally walked up to the animal and saw the shot, like right behind his shoulder, double lung, 400 yards. Like in terms of like me just like I was just so proud of the execution on that one. Once I finally saw it, like I was able to calm my breathing and make it happen in that moment.
It was epic. It's just those hunts, man. It's like there's so many lows. There's so many
way more lows than highs, but the highs just hit.
But
they freaking hit.
The high, dude. Like that is truly what you seek as a hunter. Like it is like once in a lifetime.
It's a drug.
It is.
Yeah.
It
you
is.
Just have to watch the video.
It was an absolute moment I will never, ever, ever forget. And it was just the I don't know how to explain it. The emotion. We had absolute tears.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All that to say, quickly on the heels of all that emotion, we start to realize what just happened, and we're
that always happens too.
Okay.
Every hunt, you're like, oh, that was fun.
Now we got to do something, and what the something we got to do is at the very tippy top of that cliff, right next to the bear den that 300-pound sow and her cubs just came out of. Oh, by the way, we don't know where they are because they just went in that timber right there, and we were waiting for them to pop out at any second. The gun should have done a pretty good job of scaring them off. But needless to say, we get on the walkie-talkie, and the plan becomes Jeff and Al hike down to camp,
God bless
dump
you.
everything out of the frame packs, get all 4 frame packs, and get back up here as quickly as you can.
And to Dad's credit, there was zero. He's a better man than I. There was zero selfish thought of, oh shit, like there goes my evening hunt. Like it was like we gotta go, we gotta figure out what's next. And before you guys even walkied us, we were already on our way back to camp. Like we were like, let's go. We're the cavalry. That's what I kept telling Dad. We're the cavalry. We gotta get back and get this thing going.
You have no idea how much we were relying on you.
Oh my God.
And how much when you showed up, it brought ease.
Life.
Because I don't know, there's so much work, and I knew, Dad, it was going to be for you to come up the drainage already, to go back, carry some more weight, and come back all the way in, even further, almost twice as far, actually.
It was a long way.
And I was thinking the whole time, it's almost dark now. We're going to be doing this in the dark.
Oh yeah, and that's the first thing Nate and I said when we looked at like the adrenaline like goes out, everybody settles down, and he and I are staring at there. The other thing I didn't realize. You got to see him go down.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that. So then you're like, dude, look, he's like right there on the log. And that's kind of when I freaked out and realized like, oh my God, he is right there. But once that all wore off, we're like, dude, oh my God, we're going to be out here till midnight.
I lost my marbles. In the video, I absolutely lose my marbles because I saw him drop stone cold. And you didn't because you were like, you can't see that much in that scope.
No,
it's
especially
all
once
shock,
you shoot. Yeah.
And I just flip out. And you hadn't actually put eyes on it down.
Yeah.
And that's what you're trying to explain.
Yeah. So we all that, all the excitement settles and we're like, well, dude, we're going to be out here till midnight at least. Like this is like, get ready. And I can't figure out an accurate way to really depict where he died, but like
top of the cliff.
So the steepest rock shale face you can picture, and he dies at the tippy top of it in the lone tree at the top. And
there's a dead log kind of on a 45-degree angle, and he just
caught him.
Grabbed him right there.
So Nate and I start our ascent, and to get from, it's 400 yards line of sight, but we start our ascent, and it takes us 50 minutes to an hour to get up there.
Easily.
And all the while, especially the last half, we're like, hey bear, hey bear, hey bear, because it's real steep stuff. It's starting to get dark. We're just getting closer and closer to this cave.
We're between the bear den and where we last saw the bears. There's a dead elk on the ground.
Yeah.
We're like, no lie, we get up there. We're
and
15 yards from the crest of the summit.
100%. And like you had just said, we get up there and we're like, there is no possible way they're going to get up here with the frame packs, nor is there anywhere for us on this steep ledge to to quarter him out. And then even if we quartered him out, there's no way to get back down the mountain.
Dad, I don't know how to tell you this.
With the meat in packs.
If you would have somehow made it up there, you'd still be trying to get down.
I know.
It was like your worst
so
nightmare of rolling your ankle on a cliff that is literally over 45-degree angle.
We hands and knees to get up there. Hands and knees to get up there. Well, we end.
Wait, you're describing a bear crawl past the bear deck?
Correct.
That's exactly it.
We get up there. We have our moment with the elk. We take photos. We're excited,
thing.
but we're also like a little rushed and hurried. Like, oh, cool, awesome, get the photos, but let's get to work. That's very much what it was.
And the temperature was rapidly dropping because it was already dark at this point, and you guys were like right on like where the thermals were coming down, and it was getting chilly.
That's exactly what it was too. The thermals on the head of that drainage suck and you can just feel the air. Like it's like it feels like it's 10 to 12 mile an hour winds like coming down.
And so while you guys were on that journey up that hill, Dad and I felt that same pressure, that same like we gotta go, we gotta haul, because we gotta get there. So because 4 of us stand a much better chance.
You knew about the bears too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking was bear. It was like we stand a much better chance of protecting. We did all of this, like yes for the memories and yes for the rack, but we did this for the meat too. We like some elk meat.
Yeah,
we got to get there, Dad, because 4 of us can scare these bears off.
Just a better chance. Yeah,
Al can fight a bear.
But
I was ready, man. I was ready.
We get to the top, and the conversation between Nate and I quickly becomes like, okay, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I can tell you one thing: it's not happening up here. Like, there's no way they're getting up here, and there's no way we can do this here. And so we kind of start inspecting the area, and basically, like this tree and this log that caught him, if we're able to clear that, like between sliding and rolling, we can get him down the hill a ways to a point where we could actually be on slightly more level ground to actually do something with him.
Yep. And this part of the story is like we have to discuss this, but like I remember I've seen multiple sheep videos, like sheep hunting videos in Alaska, like doll sheep, where you shoot them like they're truly like we're explaining like on the side of a cliff, and these things fall 500 to 700 vertical feet just from where you shoot them, like they just drop.
Yep.
And I've also seen where, like, these animals, the hide, specifically on an elk, around their head, around their neck, it's so they're made to fight each other, right? These bulls are absolutely wrestling with their antlers, facing each other for a good chunk of the rut, and like their hide is so thick that it protects their body. And I've seen it where people have rolled carcasses downward down a mountain
to a point where you can actually
safely skin, quarter, and pack out an animal.
That's the safe thing, right? Like, we didn't want to be in a position where we're in the dark trying to do something like keep our balance, and then like, oh, if you lose your balance, you're just falling down the side of the mountain. Like, it's just not like we got families to worry about. So what we did, we basically, we tagged him, got all that taken care of, got the photos taken care of. We got the antlers in the head and everything off, and then we basically drug him to a point where we could get gravity to help us get him down to a point where we could actually, start quartering him out. And that was a interesting situation. Like,
one of the most wild things I've ever experienced.
I'm telling you, like, it's my first elk, so I was already baffled by the size of the animal, but just trying to like move him the 10 feet that we did was unbelievable.
It was a struggle.
It was unbelievable, but all that to say, we get him to a point where we're like, it's basically an avalanche chute, and we're able to take advantage, like I said, of the gravity to roll him down to a spot where we can actually get at him. And that ended up being a massive lifesaver.
It was.
It was a point that Al and Jeff could actually get to reasonably on their journey back with the packs. You and I were able to get him down there, start getting him skinned. And by the time they got there, like you had said, the thermals were sucking down, and it was bitter cold.
This elk, when we kind of nudged him off this face, I mean, no lie, it went 300 to 400 vertical feet in seconds.
He just went, yeah. And then there was this bench that kind of flattened out, and he just stopped kind of right at these trees, and
it sounded like it was incredible. The sound,
it was
just
crazy.
Yeah, crashing timber,
like crazy.
This thing just went down. It just went.
So we then made our way down after him.
So if we could interject there,
say, pass the football to me.
Yeah, pass the football to Dad. Go.
So meanwhile, we're back. We just got to camp, and I know you guys are on the radio. Just barking out.
Hey, make sure to
Trying
grab
to,
this
but the,
and
the
make sure
batteries
to.
were also dead, so I kept
Yeah.
having to shut it off and then turn it back on and try to say it quick before it would then
Yep.
cut out.
And it's just getting dark, and so we got to get batteries. We got to get the game bags. We got to
Yeah.
get 4 backpacks. We got to get,
Yeah.
and then I think it's your idea. We got to get some paper and a lighter to make a fire over there.
That was such
and if we would have
expert level
missed
move.
any of those little parts,
the whole thing
especially
would have been
batteries,
screwed.
we'd have been screwed.
The one thing that we ended up
Batteries.
forgetting.
That's so true. Like we needed the batteries because the headlamps were dying.
Headlamps died. Yep.
We needed the bags
we changed
because
every
without
one
the-
of them.
We needed the bags because without the bags, there's no way we were getting everything out of there
Yep.
in one trip. And the only way we were getting out of there was in one trip because we were not going back there.
And
It
then,
was
and then
treacherous.
Alex said, "I'm going to grab some food, some bars."
Yeah,
and
Which
You-
also gave us cardboard to start the fire because
Yes.
the box
It
that the
was-
Cliff Bars were in. I was like, just give me that whole thing.
It was
And,
an absolute team move, team effort.
And
then we started our journey to go find them.
so by the time that you guys were, and the first part of the journeys on a trail is pretty simple. We had been to that part before, but we eventually got to a part where we had never been before. And that's almost right around the time when you guys were rolling this thing down the hill. And I remember hearing a huge crash. And obviously the acoustics of the mountain, like I knew it was to our left because we were trying to come on the left side of the water at the bottom of this basin drainage.
Yeah.
And so we hear this crash, and the first thing I'm thinking of, because we're underneath of these pine trees right next to the water at the last point that Dad and I saw the bears, and we're on a bear trail. Like it's not a tall trail, but there's like a little path where they had made. You could see their paw prints. We saw some poo the size of a human head, dude. Like just massive bear shit. And I'm like, dude, we're in the thick of it. We hear this big old crash to my left, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a bear right there. Like it's the first thing I thought. And we're like, Dad, what was that? And we're like, I don't know. And our journey was wet, and we thought it was going to be really warm hiking, but it was very, very cold with the way the thermals were coming down. So we made a bad calculation of not bringing our heavy jackets. But we're getting cold, we're getting tired. It's a lot steeper than we thought, and it's marshy. So every step, it's like walking on quicksand. Like you're using a lot of energy. And we got to the point where there was like, we have to just go straight up this hill into this shale field and just hope that we can get on the high side of this row of trees, because we couldn't see you guys and it was getting really demoralizing. And we just had one of those moments where it was like, dun, 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 because we could see your freaking light coming through the tree. You're like, oh, these are right there. And we got another gust of energy, and we made it the rest of the way to you guys. But we were at a pretty low point.
There was a moment there though where we were climbing this hill, and it was getting like really hard.
Really hard.
And I remember at one point I said, "Just go without me, Alex. Just leave me." And then we got over the hill, and all of a sudden we saw their light, and we're like, "They're right there."
It was literally like less than a minute later of Dad like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I can either. And seeing your guys' light, we just found that fresh wind and energy, and we made it the rest of the way.
And you guys, like, I'm trying to put myself in your position. Like, I want to see the dang elk on the ground, because
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
we've been hunting the last 4 days and we haven't
Yeah.
seen nothing. Like, I had to have been in your mind too.
Yeah, we wanted to get back to you guys. We wanted to do our part, for bringing all the stuff, and we also were like, we need to get there for the bears to like help protect you guys, so you guys can work without worrying about it.
Yeah, that was huge, dude. It was so big. Dad made a fire faster than an Eagle Scout could.
Dude, it was amazing.
But it's funny because you guys had already had part of the hide off, and
Yeah, we already
and
started
you're
skinning
struggling. I could tell you were fighting through what to
Yeah.
do. And this animal is huge,
Massive.
bigger than any deer we ever saw.
We were like so cold, we couldn't feel our fingers. He landed in a creek, so we're like standing ankle deep in muck,
Right.
trying to like skin this thing.
I don't know,
So-
and it still was a steep angle. I'm sure it was less than what you guys had at the way top,
yeah.
but it
That
was
was-
still like not an ideal spot. But
That
we had
was
to do it.
The one different, like for me, like I really enjoy the skinning process, and I usually like, I don't know, I just like understanding how the body works, the whole
Good
thing, and like
anatomy.
dissecting where the shot placement was. Like that to me is like a really fun part, and I don't dislike it at all. But I was getting extremely like annoyed with the angle, because I'm 6'3" or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're in the bottom of a hill, like leaning down, and it's just like, it was just so frustrating where it landed in the mud and everything, and just the crouching. It was just,
Yeah.
it was cold, and there was bears. It was
There's
just
just
like
a lot going on.
it just was like this tense hour and a half.
Because it just felt we felt rushed to just get it done, get it in packs, and let's start putting distance between here and there. Like we had like this self-induced pressure to make it happen quick.
Yeah,
It felt like that.
When we got
It
to
was
the-
getting
It was
cold,
hard
though.
for me to enjoy that. It really
Yeah.
was. Like I was really wanting to enjoy that, and I couldn't for whatever reason. And we were all really hungry too.
when we
Yeah.
first got there, I remember I was just breathing so hard, barely could breathe, and all I could do was smell. I could smell the elk
Yeah.
laying there, and it's all partially gutted. And my first thought was, this bear can smell this.
Yeah.
And we got to get some firewood. So I went to. I found the little tree there, and I went to find some dead limbs on it. I'm breaking the limbs off of this tree, and I come back to help you guys.
Yep.
And I face planted right down the hill.
Right in the creek.
Boom.
Yeah.
And instantly,
And it was downhill too, so I'm
It
like,
was.
God, we're gonna have to help him up because there's no way, like you just can't get up. Like your arms were trapped and you were facing downhill. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh
and you
geez.
guys are like, "You okay? You okay?" And I was totally fine, but
Nate was like, Dad, sit down and eat a
Sit
Cliff
down.
Bar.
just sit over there.
Yeah, I
don't
was thinking
move.
like the last thing we need right now is to carry out another elk.
Exactly.
And the
Like,
and the
Dad, sit your ass down and do not get
You were
hurt,
like, eat a
please.
Cliff Bar and drink some water, please.
well, and Dad kind of scared me on our hike in because it did get pretty difficult. And he at one point said the quiet part out loud, looks at me in the eye, and goes, "You can't get hurt because if you get hurt,
I
I'm
can't get you
screwed."
out
The
of here.
last thing we need is to carry out another bull elk out of this damn drainage.
And so I felt that pressure too for like I gotta like try to make this as easy as possible for both of us so we can get there in one piece and be helpful. We can't just get there and be dead.
It was key, Al. Like both you and Dad, like you did so many things that are like not, like I don't know, like, traditional, right?
yeah.
Like we wouldn't have done any of the things that you did because we were just like skin, quarter,
Yeah.
get out. Like that was the
it
whole
was just
thing.
so many like sideline, but like super
But, like,
necessary
you,
things.
You holding the elk, Al,
Yeah.
on the angles, like
And
life
again,
changing.
with the
Dad
angle
starting
of
the
that hill,
fire,
that was tough.
life changing. The food, like that Cliff Bar is the only reason I got through that.
Once Al got there with my Havilon too,
Yeah.
like, and you and I could both start working on it at the same time, then things started to pick up because you were like, start on that front quarter, I'll start. Like, it just.
Oh, the huge thing we didn't mention. You didn't bring your headlamp.
Yeah. that
Oh
was
yeah,
a
we brought
frickin-
multiple headlamps,
Yeah.
and Dad was an absolute battery factory. Like every single one of
I
those.
replaced better than 3 headlamps.
Yeah, every single one of those headlamps needed changing at one point. We were there for so long, and
Yep.
Dad was just changing them out. And I want to stress this: like Dad found some energy from the time that the shot happened to getting back to camp to getting back to you guys. Like, I think we both had that sense of urgency of like we got to like do our part. We're the cavalry, and Dad, I guarantee you, Dad did not know that he had that gear in him because he freaking like he was such a champ getting there and getting back and like all the things that he did. So I just want to give you props for that. And I said that after we were all like back at camp, like kind of reminiscing about the whole thing. I was like, I respect you for that because like there was just no way that you were gonna let any excuse get in the way of like being there because
Yeah.
you're like I'm one of the boys. They need me, and I'm gonna be there no matter what. And I respect.
Well, I
the
got to
hell
tell
out
you,
of
at one point, I think I said to you, I can't do this, Alex. And then I remember saying a prayer like, Lord, lead my path, lead my
Yeah.
my feet, get me there. And it happened.
Yeah,
That's all I
Dude.
remember.
Oh my gosh.
And it was moments you rallied so fast. It was moments after you face planted. I know you probably were embarrassed.
Yeah.
And we turned back around like 2 minutes later, and all the stuff that you had found to build a fire was like wet wood,
Some
and
of it was
there
wet,
wasn't
yeah.
good material. And we turn around, you got this huge fire going on the
I
freaking
don't know.
mountainside
Yeah.
against all the odds because all the thermals were roaring down. Like it should have blew that thing out, but you like somehow.
That dried up little pine tree you found though, that went up like a tinderbox,
It
I
did.
think.
Yep.
So it was an amazing thing you did there.
Yeah. And the headlamp thing, for whatever reason, when we left camp, I'm like, I'm just gonna throw my water and everything in your pack and not bring my pack. I'm just bringing the gun. I got really, my gun's very heavy, so I
Yeah.
got like tired of carrying my pack and the gun everywhere. And the previous 3 nights, like we had kind of waited till gray light and then still hunted our way back to camp, so I hadn't really needed the headlamp that much. And for whatever reason, that evening I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw my water in your pack and not bring mine. Just bring my gun. But then, of course, we kill, and we had to get to the summit to get to the elk. And
that was
we're
really
using-
annoying because we're in the middle of the dark,
Yeah, when you were
getting
using
down the
your
cliff.
headlamp only.
and you were basically blind.
I was blind, and every time you turn your head, I'd be like, dude, I can't see shit.
Yeah,
Like-
and we kept having to like drop the gun, and you know what I mean. Like it was just that was a really big pain point.
It really was. So Al comes with, I said, make sure you leave my headlamp in my bag, Al.
Yeah, so we
Because we
brought.
said empty everything out of my bag other than my knife and my headlamp, please.
That's what I said, Dad. If it cuts and if it lights, bring it. And then I took out one of your bags that I thought it was a
cuts and
pillow,
it
but it
lights.
was your freaking game
The
bags.
game
but
bags, yeah.
luckily, Nate had
Nate had
literally
his.
to the bag the perfect amount.
Nate had his game bags with him, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm prepared for you. Don't worry.
Appreciate that.
But
So,
to wrap this segment right here, like the quartering gets finished,
Yep.
We pack all the packs. We grab everything. We double check.
We get a Cliff Bar in us, and
We say a prayer, and then we head down mountain. And it took us. I mean, we didn't get back to camp until 12:30 the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't think I went to bed until 1:00. We had a little celebratory shooter,
Oh my gosh.
which put Dev on his dang rear end.
You too, buddy.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
great.
after-
Knocked our socks off.
Yeah, after
after,
eating,
Hadn't eaten anything or drank anything, and then we just take whiskey to the dome.
yeah, that was rough. I felt it too.
it was
But
rich
after the
and
Death
rare.
March, though. I mean, we were in some type of way. We were in bad shape when we got back, but we were also flying high. So like, I don't know, maybe that made it easier.
Dude, the adrenaline was peak. I mean, it was peak, climax, peak, high, ultimate high of adrenaline. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Oh man, it was a good time. So it's not over there. We get a meat pole made. We hang these quarters in a tree. The next morning is our last morning.
Well,
and
hold
we,
on though. You missed
we
that
sent
part.
an in what?
You had it was like at 7:00 or 8:00. You had sent a message on your sat phone.
Yeah. I was gonna get there.
Yeah.
So we sent an inReach notification to the outfitter, like, "Hey, we killed," and the next day is the last day of the season. So we say, we were kind of all beat, so we all
And our-
made a group decision, like, "Hey, if we can ask these guys to come up and get the meat and come and get us, are we all cool with that?" Which basically meant Dad was going to get one more morning hunt, but not the evening, because they basically would come up about around noon with the horses, and we'd all go down with them, and we all kind of agreed. Like Dad's like, "I'm good with one more morning hunt." And that was
'Cause if we
awesome
didn't-
because
The trade-off. Yeah, the trade-off was
I was gonna
otherwise
get
it's
there.
going to.
I was gonna get there.
Thanks, bud.
If we didn't go out on that day, we'd have to wait for 2 more days until after the season. So we didn't end up knowing this until they actually came and got us. But like, they were very thankful that we asked them to come and get us on the last day of the season, because basically the day after the season and the day after that, they're just packing a ton of people. So the fact that we wanted to come out a day early,
They were
they were
grateful.
they were grateful for that, which was interesting, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
So basically that was, we had one morning to hunt, and going kind of back to my role, like, we didn't go to bed till 1. Okay, that's one thing. So we're gonna get up at 5
You're
o'clock.
like, Dad, are we getting up to hunt, Dad? Dad, are we getting up to hunt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No, I didn't say that. I said we're going hunting in the morning.
Yeah.
yeah.
But the alarm ran off, and I was like, "Dad, are we getting up or are we not?" So
Yep.
we end up hunting. But like, so this moment though, this is like, we talked about ups and downs. We talk about facing adversity. We talk about the lowest of lows, and there's something beautiful about the lowest of lows.
Yeah.
There was a Bible verse that was brought up early in the week from James.
Yep.
Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And if you let perseverance finish its work, you may be made mature and complete, not lacking anything. The only way that you can grow in life is if you have these horrible, like, downward moments,
Yeah.
right? And not to say that anything that we had faced was a downward moment, but we had the opportunity to persevere in an extremely challenging situation by having Jeff tag out on the last day. And it's like cool to me because that, like, against all odds,
Buzzer beater.
we have the opportunity to make a buzzer beater. Everybody likes to talk about a buzzer beater, but like, you don't get to have the buzzer beater opportunity unless you persevere.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like the
Am I
horses,
making sense?
Yeah.
the horses have
Absolutely.
already been on the trail for 2 hours, and we could still get this done.
So I'm like, Dad, we have the opportunity to put an end cap on this that would.
Yeah. You left out of the tent and you said, "Hey, Devin, Al, I know you're sleeping, but if you hear a gunshot, come running down the hill with a knife." That's literally what you said.
I did, because we basically, those cowboys are leaving the trailhead at 7:30, and they're going to be at our camp at about 11:30.
Yep.
11:30 to noon. So I'm like, if you guys hear a gunshot, run.
Come running down the
Don't
hill
walk,
with a knife.
run. Grab a knife and run. And so here, Dad and I go off. We were pretty dang tired. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, optimism was there.
well, this was 4 hours after a death march, and all you had in your system was some whiskey and a couple of quickly made squeezy
fudge
pizza.
rounds. We were in those
little
squeezy
pizza,
pizzas, dude.
Squeeze some sauce on there, throw some pepperoni.
Dude, we
like,
didn't even talk about the
roll-ups.
food situation. We'll get to maybe I don't know. Go ahead, keep going.
So we're walking. We didn't go far. Dad and I were in a way. We were absolutely gonna go hunting, but it was a early morning. So We get a coffee in us. We walk down to the spot that we'd seen the spike bull, the one that's close to camp. Good place to start the hunt. I figure we might meander around a little bit, but not go too far, because if we shoot one, it's got to be close to the trail because these boys are coming up the mountain, right?
Yep.
Anything to add on that, Dad?
Just the fact that I could barely feel my legs and I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
I was actually feeling better, but after only 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you're not feeling quite right.
Yeah, you're not feeling
Just
quite.
a couple tortilla pizzas and not enough
whiskey
water
shooter.
But
inside
I
of you.
knew it was the last opportunity for me to shoot a bull, so let's go.
Let's go.
So we get up. It wasn't the coldest morning. I remember it was kind of like a warmer morning.
When I woke up that morning and came out of the tent, I felt that. I'm like,
it
it
was chilly.
smells warm in the air.
It wasn't one of those crisp mornings at all.
Yeah.
And we go down there and we sit. And the thing I was thinking about was the first morning, day 3. Sorry, not the first morning. Day 3 morning when we saw that 6x6 bull. We did this. We sat in the same spot. And the conversation we had around that 6x6 was, if we would have been to that point 2 minutes earlier, like we would have been within 100 yards of this thing, and we probably would have killed it right there. So that was at 8:03. And so my goal was, let's get to that point a little bit quicker than 8:03. Like, we'll sit at the creek for a little while, but rather than sitting there for the first 45 minutes light and then moving, if we don't see anything after 25 to 30 minutes, we'll get up and we'll walk our way down
To that point.
this drainage. And we'll sit and look over this other little spot. The thermals would switch. It'd be perfect. So we start the morning at the creek. Don't see anything. Beautiful morning. I'm like, Dad, this can happen. This can happen right now at any time. Be ready. Don't lose hope. Like, keep in it. We get up. We start walking down the drainage. And I don't even kid when I say this. The exact same spot in the trail. We're standing within 25 yards of where we were standing the last time when we saw this big 6x6.
Not to the point yet.
Not what?
Not to the rock yet.
Not the tree.
No, but like
you
trail,
hadn't
I
made
mean.
it to the point that you were headed to.
Yeah.
right.
No.
We were a little bit early, but like in the exact same, like within 25 yards of where we were walking down the trail, in the exact same spot, we see an elk, a shooter bull, a 4x4, a 4x5 bull, in the exact same spot as the 6x6.
Yep.
And you turn around
Run
and yelled at me.
through the-
You turn around and yell, down.
I was like,
You
get
jump
down,
on the
get
ground.
down. I give him the gun because I'm carrying the gun. And he gets the bag out, he gets the scope out, and I range him, and this thing like works the exact same trail as the 6x6. This bull, the bull that we're talking about, the
Yeah.
4x5, just a little bit bigger than the one you shot, but
Yeah.
it was kind of raggedy. It wasn't as clean.
Yeah.
It looked like it had been busted up.
We didn't even say. Mine ended up being a 5x3.
Yeah, beautiful bull.
We didn't even say that.
But this thing, it happened so fast, like the other one, where it's like, and I knew Dad, like, you're probably going to say this, but I knew you kind of like wished you would have shot it at 6x6.
The first one, yeah.
So I gave you the gun real quick. You flip the safety off. I range it, and I'm kind of like, if you think you can shoot. He's at 500. And when we actually got sat down, like he was moving, so we saw him at 430, like 430 yards is when I first ranged him, and then when we actually get set, I range again, and he was 70 yards further, and it was like,
Yeah.
it's like, dang, like we if we would have literally been literally a minute and a half to 2 minutes further in that journey,
Yeah.
we would have killed that bull.
If
No,
we'd been-
no questions
If
asked.
we'd have been
Other
at the
video.
rock, we would have shot that one.
It
So
like it
the
was
rock-
a kick in the nuts.
What's interesting is you were trying to get to the rock earlier based on what happened with the 6x6.
Exactly.
And so you left earlier, but then this time that bull's a little bit earlier, so you were still at the same point in the journey as you were with the 6x6 and not to the
Crazy.
rock. And
Dude, like, I don't know how to explain it to you. And especially after the outfitters came and like explained that, of the 50 camps or 50 hunters or whatever it is,
50 hunters,
It
and
was
13 some camps.
13 some camps.
and of the amount of people that were actually successful was like what, less than 20, like 18%,
18%, yeah.
which is extremely
They,
low.
they said it was a tough season. Yeah.
The fact that we almost doubled, it gives me chills up my spine.
And the one guided group got nothing.
Like,
we
I-
almost got 2.
That's tough too, yeah.
But this story does not end on this podcast because you mark my words, I will not quit until Jeff Hicks drops a bull.
Shoots a
I'm
bull
not
out.
kidding. Like my goal for both of you guys is to just like let's kill a bull.
Yeah.
And we were like,
Right there.
oh my gosh, and like all my energy, I'm still there on that mountain. My whole soul, I felt like, is still there. Like, as your guide, Dad, I was like, I feel like I figured out too how these bulls use the thermals.
That area.
Yeah, exactly.
Like where that's a pinch. That is an absolute pinch
This
because
specific
they can't
area
go through the bottom.
Yeah, this specific area that we're talking about is just the way that the terrain lies out and where the cliffs are. Like when they need to actually travel, I think this bull is also bumped. This 4x5 we're talking about. Like I think I understand how the hunters are kind of
Well, we missed a really key part of that story that morning.
What?
So I get up out of the tent and I'm brushing my teeth.
Oh,
and
yeah.
At 7:50, a really loud gunshot that sounds like it's coming from exactly where you told us you were going to be sitting goes off. And I like run in the tent. I'm like, Al, did you hear that? Or no, Al was down at the latrine.
And I'm currently sitting on the old
the latrine.
redneck engineering chair in the latrine. I'm like, Dad, what's going on, dude?
He comes up out of the brown bottom and he's like, hey. I'm like, did you hear that? And he's like,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, that gunshot. And he goes, it kind of sounded a long way off. I'm like, no, it sounded like it was right there. And I like started filming on my phone and I'm like, guys, this might be a false alarm. I'm not sure, but they told me where they were going to be sitting this morning and I just heard a gunshot from that area. Nate said if we heard a gunshot, grab a knife and come running. So I grabbed my Havalon, I threw on my backpack and I said, Al, we're going down the hill right now. And we went down to the creek.
You weren't there.
And you weren't there.
This is good news.
And I'm like, oh my God, maybe they went to go look for blood. And so then we cross the creek and we go up just to the little hill on the other side of the creek blind.
Yep.
And I'm like trying to glass down by the rock and I can't see anything. And I'm like, oh my God, they're not at the rock either.
They must be tracking it.
I'm like, Al, we have to just back out. Like if they're on one right now or they're tracking one, like I don't want to push down in there. Like Nate, I had gotten on the walkie-talkie and heard static, like you were trying to contact us.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, like Al, we just need to back out until we get confirmation. But I think they just hit a buzzer beater, and we were freaking out. We were freaking out at camp because we were like trying to split wood and start packing up camp, and then I'm like, oh my God, they just hit the buzzer beater.
Yep, I thought you banged off for a second while I was doing a logging project.
A logging project. No, but it was like, again, just putting yourselves in situations like at the beginning of the week, none of us would have, even have guessed that would have been a possibility that we could do a buzzer beater in that fashion. You know what I
We
mean?
just hadn't even seen any elk. We had no idea how the place worked or anything.
I can't explain enough. I've been saying this ever since we've left, but like I'm just really proud that we put ourselves in the situation to have the opportunity to have a buzzer beater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people quit early. A lot of people get soft and they quit mentally. They just don't go out and they do everything half-assed. And I'm just really, really, really proud of how we actually had the opportunity to make be one of the only camps to double up.
Yeah.
Like just
we would have been the only camp to double up.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's my competitive edge, but like I'm so proud of you guys. I really am. It was one of the ultimate adventures I've been on.
That's one thing I can say too. Like even when the vibes were low and I was not in the spirits that I needed to be, I remember saying to Al all the time, like, Al, if this week doesn't go the way that we want it to go, like we're gonna go down swinging and it ain't gonna be for lack of effort.
That's
like
right.
We were putting on miles.
We were.
Like we were getting up every day and we were going hunting. Like we didn't, like you said, we didn't mail it in and sit at camp and feel bad for ourselves. Like we might have bitched our way through it, or I might have bitched my way through it, but I got up and we went and we packed on the miles and we got it done.
It was epic.
And I am proud of our execution. And my God, that was a team bowl for sure. That night, oh my gosh, it's just
We all believed from day 1 to day 5 that both of those tags were getting filled.
We did. Yeah, we really did.
And that was the vibes the whole time. And I guess the only regret was you should have called a helicopter in after you shot the elk. That'd have been a lot easier to get it out.
No
dude.
kidding. Or maybe call it in on day 1 and just get it over with. Because our luck kind of turned after that,
Heli Dev got the last laugh, that's for
I
sure.
guess so. That did make the story a little sweeter.
Mm-hmm.
But
Dad, anything there?
I don't know. I just wanted to say that I'm just proud to be a part of this group and that you guys invited me, and it was awesome experience for me and to see my 2 boys, and Devin's almost like my adopted son. It was awesome to be a part of this whole thing. So thank you guys.
you're welcome. I'm
Absolutely, Dad.
so grateful you guys came with us. And yeah, I mean, lifetime, like I said, just so many lifetime core memories. Like that the horse ride and just so many different things.
The
But
horse
just
ride alone was. Wouldn't you agree,
memories-
guys? Like the horse riding alone was just this
That was-
crazy fun thing to do in the
Just
mountains.
so many different times though this week where I wanted to pull out my phone and document, and I did. But then there was like other times where I'm like, I'm just gonna like be present and burn this into my brain, like this memory. Like I want to remember what that that looks like forever.
Yeah.
It was just so cool.
Yeah. Riding horses for 9 hours, like you guys said, alone was awesome, but also on the way back was a little
It
painful.
was brutal. I do think
Those
on the rider,
cowboys are a little bit tweaked with time. They're like, yeah, we're about an hour out. 2 hours later.
Yeah. Absolutely.
for me, the ride out was way tougher on my body. Like the going downhill and like you said, the active riding and having to like lean and help the horse. For me, it was my horse did not like going downhill. He tiptoed, which was the entire ride out. And holy cow, that beat me up. But
Your legs, all of us were
oh yeah.
pretty.
walking a little bow-legged.
Yeah, there's a lot of stress on your knees, and like obviously as you're rubbing around, like that can get to be quite a bit. But my last comment will be, there was very clearly defined roles here, and it was, Devin, Dad were hunters, and Nate was like the guy that's killed out before, and is the scout. And as the group pack mule, I just want to say you're all welcome. And
Mule Alex.
That's dude.
L's and ox.
You are. You're like a Clydesdale.
I knew what my role was.
If Dev's a Shetland pony, you're a Clydesdale.
I told Dev multiple times, I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter how much weight you put on me. I'm going to go about the same speed. Like, you're a racehorse. I'm a pack mule. It is
Yeah,
what
you're
it
not
is.
you're not a Shetland pony. You're more like you're a stallion. You are. You're a stallion, Dev. Everybody's a stallion here.
So, yeah, we didn't even say that. But yeah, so Al took a rear quarter and then the back straps and all the loose meat. Nate took a rear quarter. I took both the front quarters in the head or the rack. And we just freaking death marched our way out of there. We were not taking 2 trips.
And Dad had his
Had all of our gear.
pack full
basically.
of gear, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
away we went.
Dude, that was the Type 2 fun, man.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it.
me either.
Never.
Thanks to the outfitter, it was really cool that they were as responsive as they were.
Mhm.
They responded within an hour
Yeah.
at night.
We'll get you tomorrow.
We'll come up.
Sleep
We're
tight,
coming up.
boys. Yeah.
Very reassuring. Yeah. I was impressed with the outfitter too. Like they remembered the horses that we rode in
Yeah.
and they brought the exact same horse. Like
Yeah.
small detail, but like very, I thought that was awesome.
Mhm.
I asked that one cowboy out of Bo about it, and he was like, "Yeah, anytime we can bring back the same rides, we try to do that. Just because once somebody's had a good experience with a horse, we like to just keep that up and not chance it."
Yeah. Those guys too, when we were talking to them as they were packing up our stuff, they were, y'all see that helicopter that come in? And we said, we paused for a second. We go,
Yeah.
nope, know nothing about it.
We covered for you so hard, Dev.
Oh man.
Like if you told Bo, that's one thing, but it ain't coming on our lips.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We really appreciate you listening along to this. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See ya.
See ya.